Our next speaker, Coco van Weelden, is a partner at Huibers van Weelden Architecten. She graduated at the Technical University of Delft, where with her graduation work she actually earned a nomination for the Archiprix. But besides that, she was actually working on the question, what is architecture? She discovered that we can actually convey messages through architecture. So this is something that she's been working on a lot, and she will also show this today in the presentation. In 2022, the firm where she's working was awarded with the Dutch Daylight Award for their project Villa Bos. And also about this project, she will tell you much more in the presentation. Let's welcome her to the stage.
It was not that long ago, since I was a student at the university. And I still remember the struggles and the questions I had back then. I was trying to figure out what kind of architect I wanted to be. What would be the input for my designs? What drove me? What fascinated me? There were so many different styles and perspectives. Today, I would like to take you on a journey on the process that I've been through and where it had landed me. And hopefully, it is some inspiration for your own journey. The language of architecture, how do you find it? From a very early age, I had a strong sense of space, like it was trying to tell me something. And light always played a big part in that. For me, this feeling was always really clear, but I couldn't figure out yet what it was. It was the feeling that you wanted to stay in a place or a feeling that you want to leave as soon as possible. The feeling of being big in a space or really small. I think maybe the clearest example is in the church. Probably you have the same kind of experience. You don't have to be religious to have this supernatural, this spiritual feeling. It already starts when you walk around the city. European cities are more or less all the same. You have these narrow, secluded streets, and then all of a sudden the space opens up and this big square arises with a big building at the end of it. A big symmetrical building, even a bit heightened on a pedestal. It's almost like it is from some higher power. To me it's amazing. And when you enter, you have to go to these really big doors, which feel like a gateway to another door, to another world. You have to really go through it, almost like some sort of passage. And then you are inside, and while you were on the big square, you had all this light and this hot, sunny brightness glaring on your face. Then you step inside, and all of a sudden, it's dark. It's cool again. And your eyes have to adjust a little bit. Then you follow this colonnade, and you enter at the end of this long colonnade, you enter this big domed space. I think the Pantheon is maybe the best example of this. You have this one light coming from above, and it's almost like you meet God himself. Even without being religious, I'm not as well. So I had this feeling, like it was trying to tell me something, and that led me to studying architecture in Delft. Sorry guys, but probably in Eindhoven you can find it as well. In Delft, I really wanted to learn the tools to create that feeling myself. Slowly, it came from feeling to reason. I basically distilled more the tools to make it my own. But first, there were 3 things that helped me. Of course, studying architecture, practicing architecture, and hearing the perspectives of other architects, what they were doing. I had many heroes. I mean, all the architects were my hero. I studied them, I wanted to become them. But today I just picked 3, 2 really famous ones and one maybe a bit less famous. Let's start with him. This is Renato Rizzi. And he doesn't have very much realized work. This is actually one of very few of them, but instantly it's super powerful. I mean, look at how he uses the light here. The theater itself, it's a theater in Poland. And the theater hall itself is like this moving in and out box, which through its material really lights up like a diamond in that whole city. He really works with contrast, so light is used in a very dramatic way. But that fitted Renato. Once visited a lecture from him, and he explained to me about his definition of architecture. He stated, architecture consists of two parts, arche and techne. He was Italian, so it was a bit Italian. He said arche, that was the poetic side of architecture. It's the feeling, the beauty, the atmosphere, everything that has to do about the heart. Techne is the technical part. It's the functionality, it's the budget, it's the details, it's construction, it's everything about the brain. Only together you truly have architecture. In the Netherlands, I have to say we are a bit landed on the technical part of architecture, which is good, but you know, the arche is really what makes us feel alive. And that triggered me a lot. That was something I wanted to incorporate more in my style. So more this poetic, romantic side almost. Then we have the second one, a bit more famous maybe, a bit more eccentric. And Rem is totally different. He's this intellectual, he's this way of analyzing and breaking everything down like this journalist, taking it apart to its very core fundamentals and then building them up again. I never met a person who was so interested in everything and always asking questions. At one time, me and another intern were standing in the elevator and Rem joined us. Imagine, as a young student, you just finished your bachelor's, standing in the elevator next to this larger-in-life persona, and even his height, he's approximately, I think, 2 meters, adds to that. So we were standing there, what's happening now? Because he never was in the elevator before, for some reason. And he asked us, how are you doing? And we mumbled something like, oh, good, fine, good, yes, thank you. How are you? Do you speak Italian? Okay. Do you speak Italian? Second question. Who asked that? Somebody so curious, so, trying to figure everything out. And that was, for me, my second lesson, stay curious. And a fun experience. The third hero inspiration is Peter Zumthor. Peter Zumthor is one of the few architects who left the city and went to the Swiss mountains. Remember that, that comes back later when it's a little bit more about me. Zumthor incorporates light very early in his design phases. He plans the building as a pure mass and then he hollows out the light. That's his approach. Secondly, he chooses materials for the way how they reflect the light. He sees that in a so poetic way. For him it's almost moving. It has this spiritual quality like we saw earlier in the cathedral. I visited Thermenvals and the feeling you get there is truly, it's primal, it's of another earth. I never saw a building that gave you that feeling like this one. So, that's how I discovered that the greatest architects, according to me, you all great as well, but they combine their own personality with their architecture. Now, I know it's very popular to do something with sustainability or wood nowadays, but if it's not truly something that drives you, something you want to know everything about, it doesn't really work, to me. And since we are at a university, that is the first message I want to give to you. Use what you know, draw from it. It doesn't always mean clutter facts. Feed it, let it grow, make it your own, and create unique buildings. So, Peter Zumthor was this mystical monk, Rem Koolhaas this rebellious reporter, Renato this artistic poet. What was I? Looking back at those first memories about space, like a building was trying to tell me something, like a message. That's how I found subliminal messaging. Subliminal messaging is a definition in where the building conveys a message. Subtle cues or stimuli in the building influence behavior, perception, emotion on a subconscious level. It's conveying a message without literally saying it. When you try to tell a message, you need a language. You need to understand that language and make it your own. It's like the same with other kinds of art. In music, you have the language of notes and tonality and everything that comes with that. And poetry, it's the language with words. So I started to create my alphabet with a communication model. It's very simple. You have a sender, that's the architect, and a receiver, that's the user. They both add elements to the message. The challenge for the sender is to turn thoughts into an encoded communication in such a way that others will understand the intended meaning. Difficult sentence. But it basically means that you need to understand everything about how you can convey a message. So I did that. If you see it, you have three categories. The first is the overall message of the architecture, then the supportive architectural elements, and then the supportive abstract elements. When you look at the first column, you see all words you probably know. Typology, form, proportion, rhythm, right? We learned that in architecture school, but we never see them together as a whole message, which you can formulate your own message from. Basically, all those elements can together point towards one direction in whatever it is you want to say. But then on a more deeper level, you have the second column. It goes down to the very fundamentals. You know, we are meaningful creatures who try to understand and label the world around us. We do that constantly. We can't help ourselves. And those fundamentals, those deeper elements, it's basically everything about the building. So if you take, for example, a wall could mean so much more than just a stack of stones. It forms a psychological barrier between two worlds, an inside and an outside. And think, for example, of the power of the wall, the Berlin Wall, the Chinese Wall. It was to keep people out, but also it works as a means to create privacy. In the floor plan, the wall is the leading star. It defines space. And where the wall keeps out, the doors allow. And then you have light. Light acts as a guide through this path. It symbolizes life itself and draws you further in along the route you're on. When it's dark, you have this very intimate, sometimes a bit scary encounters. It focuses your attention. When you first enter through a dark room and then enter a light, bright room, it feels even more lighter. There is no element that can create drama like light can. And this is how you can completely break down architecture in all its elements and truly understand from each element what they are, what they mean, what they could mean, and what you want to mean with it. And how you put them together in order to convey a message, that's personal. That's actually what it's all about. That's you. That's your own personal touch. Just like a composer does with his symphony and a poet does with his words, that's the beauty of art. As a receiver, you do not need to have the knowledge about how it's done, but you know instantly whether it's done right. Governments have always understood and respected how the underlying idea of conveying a message works. Versailles was designed to make visitors feel really small when they reach the emperor. Nazi architecture aimed at projecting aggression and power. And modern architecture, that was after the war, people were so fed up with everything the Nazis had thought about, that they created this new style of architecture. A style that conveyed the message of democracy by being light and transparent. But you can also extrapolate this a little bit further. And that's where I'm really interested in. Like a library can really inspire you to acquire knowledge. And of course, back to the church, cathedrals can bring you closer to God. For me, it is important as an architect to be aware of that language. I was completely hooked on subliminal architecture, so I wanted to become much better at it and learn everything about it. And finally, I came away this way of practicing it. These are some of the results. You know what the single most question about Villa Bos is? How did you get it? Everybody asks me always that, not that we won the Dutch Daylight Award, but how did you get it? Well, I didn't. Another architect got a project. And well, being a young architect, you really rely on the people you know to give you your first commissions. So I called them up and asked them if I could come straight away for a cup of coffee. Then I told them about my vision, about the process, about what it could mean for them, and asked them if they would consider giving me a role. A couple of days later, I got a phone call. They said, okay, you will share the project with the other architects. Well, you can imagine the attitude of that other architect when we first got together. My second message to you is therefore, be bold. That bold attitude was reflected in the design itself. The changing water levels of the River Rhine are very exciting to live next to. I mean, in this area we have flooding sometimes, people leaving their houses. Yeah, exciting. It's like the Netherlands, we are always conquering with water. The entire architectural gesture enhances that experience of the water. It feels like you are conquering it when you stand in it. And the whole shape, as you can see it, it has this direction towards the River Rhine. You literally float above it, and that ground feeling of conquering the water, you experience it at the end of the route. We designed this route towards the view because it's always the expectation of a view. It's much more greater when you choreograph how you arrive at it. And daylight played an enhancing role in that, so it acted as a guiding element. That experience starts at the entrance. It's a bit, it's sober, it doesn't ask your immediate attention, and you stand in the shadow. There's only one opening, very clear, like a pure view of, like a frame of the end result where you are moving towards. It's a sneak peek from what's to come. A pure frame without any distractions. Once you are inside, you are welcomed by an immense light from above you. Without the detail of a window or a door frame, it creates a sense of wonderment. Am I still outside? The journey continues in a lower, darker space where you remove your coat and do all the functional things. And then you are back on this X. You stand in the middle of the house and the light comes flushing in. There the walls open up and the landscape is revealed. You surrender. And it's like seeing the river with a new set of eyes. And you remember that other architect, the one with the attitude who had to share his project? He became my office partner. My third message to you is stick to your guns. When you start out a project, it is always with this vision. And there is only one way to make it happen. Don't let go of it, because every alteration means a degradation of your vision. I believe that's one of the most important qualities of an architect. How you stick to it and the ability to get it done, not letting the process get in the way. This was an existing office building with a lot of inner walls and small dark spaces. As a company, it's important to show who you are, not only for your clients, but also as a distinguishing factor for your own employees. We designed an office space for the company Spike. It's an IT company that characterizes itself as a true game changer. So we designed an office that reflected just that. It completely overturns the traditional image of an office building, and the light of the dark building became light again. The idea is that the moment that you step inside, there's something unfamiliar about it. The space opens up and mirrors the dynamic world of IT, with dynamic walls, light from every direction, and the ability to walk around. You are pulled in every direction. There are curved shapes, a floating debate area, a swirling staircase leading upstairs. And the left image was before. To create more light, we tore down basically all the walls and created these new ones. With the curved walls, light actually was directed a lot more further in. And also by the use of the material, it's much more agreeable to work there. So how do you stick to it? Well, during the construction phase, we were challenged constantly by the contractor to make alterations and cuts. At one time, we just say, okay, now it's enough, and actually we stepped out. So we were out of the project. And that is the moment when the sustained plafonds came in, suspended ceilings, and the client saw the result. That was not our original plan, and they begged us to come back straight away. The suspended ceilings, they remained, but the rest went pretty much according to plan. And to this day, by the way, that same contractor has this on his website, this project. He's very happy, the client is very happy, and even last week I got another picture. The client always makes pictures of the space saying, oh, look at the light, how it comes in again. So it was a success. Okay. I'm also very into movies, as you can see. Maybe to close off, it's nice to talk a little bit about myself. You know, architects are among the few people who are not only dare to dream big, but also are able to have the ability to make those dreams come to life. I had a dream to return to my roots, back from the city, back to nature. The Peter Zumthor move, I often call it. To make this possible, because in nature, like all the nice plots with a nice view are already, there's already usually a house on it. There's never plots for sale with this majestic view. So we were looking at where we would like to live. And we found these kinds of spaces, there's always these big houses, way too big for just the two of us. So we proposed a project to my parents to buy a house that was pre-corona, so there was not the big move to nature yet. Everybody was still in the cities, and the cities were expensive, but the big houses in nature, not so much back then. So it was actually the perfect time to start a project like this. 2 families, 2 generations in one family house. And the goal was for both families to have as much light coming in as possible and to have this amazing view. It was a transformation, so it's not a newly designed project like some other ones, like Villa Bos. But basically this project was about opening up this backside of the house towards the view. And what we did with the cantilevers, you see these horizontal lines, they allow for the sun in the winter to shine very deep in and to warm it up and have the light. But in the summer they act as a form of shade. Plus to create the dramatic extensions which seemingly float over the landscape. It's like Frank Lloyd Wright with his horizontal lines. He always connected the building with its natural environment. It's not completely done. We are still working on it, doing a lot of things ourselves. Yeah, I have a small, that's my last video, I promise, of the process so far. To conclude, from subliminal messaging to my message to you. Use what you know, draw from it, be bold, and stick to your guns. Have fun!